Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk. Light Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Hello and welcome to Light Talk. This is Stan, broadcasting from my state-of-the-art studio in the swamps of Gainesville, Florida.
And hi, this is Ann. I'm in San Clemente, California.
And this is David, back home in Long Beach, California, and we are the Lumen Brothers!
I think you mean and sister.
Oh yes, sister!
Right. That's right.
We have our honorary Lumen sister with us today, Ann McMills.
Yay!
Ann McMills!
Hey!
Oh my God! You know, I feel like I'm at the beginning of the Muppet Show when Kermit does. "Ah, we got our famous. You know, this is so exciting. Now, okay, Steve is okay, everyone. No, he hasn't gotten into some kiln accident or something like that. Everything is okay with Steve. He just had, he's on hiatus for the day, but he'll be back next week. And Ann wonderfully said, hey, I'll fill in. So we're welcoming our first show with Ann, and there are probably quite a few more to come because
I was going to say, can I let the cat out of the bag?
Let it out of the bag. Let it out of the bag.
Sure.
So next, I am leaving tomorrow, Gainesville, for California for a few days, and then I'm heading to Maui for a second honeymoon. And so Ann is going to take my place so that I don't have to think about anything but being with my lovely partner for the next 15 days. So thank you for that, Ann.
That is so wonderful.
Well, thanks. I'm so happy to be here. It's a huge honor to be asked to fill in as a Lumen sister. So I'm really grateful to be here. It's always fun. And I swear I listen to, Light Talk all the time in the car on my long commute. And I'm always answering questions back with you. So now you actually have to listen to them. You're stuck with me.
That's right.
Now you get to answer them, so that's going to be fun.
And ask them. It'd be great. It would be terrific.
Yeah.
But I think she's just saying that. I think she has better things to do.
No, you filled my commute.
So what do you mean? What do you mean she's publishing? This is important.
And we need to say something. We need to say that Ann will be joining us at the LDI booth this year as a book signing.
That's right.
She's going to be signing her book at our Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers trade show
I didn't
booth.
know if we were doing that or not.
We're doing it.
Yes, it's been confirmed. You are doing the book signing at our table at LDI.
That's right.
I have confirmed that with LDI.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say that's either Friday. That's probably Friday then, because I'm only there Friday, Saturday. And Saturday is the portfolio reviews for lighting and projection designers. So students, make sure you sign up. Go on, ldishow.com?
Something like that.
Yep, I think that's it.
Yeah, and I got to mention something about the book signing that Ann doesn't know about yet, because I'll be signing my book there as well.
Ooh, awesome.
The difference is that Ann will have actual books to sign. I'll be signing some USB drives. So
Well,
that means I have to have a very small pen.
Speaking of that, did we come up with the swag to give to our people?
Yes, I have come up with it. I've come up with the greatest idea ever. Okay. Now, originally we were talking.
If he doesn't say so himself.
If I don't say so myself, I'm here testing it right now at the show. So please, if you guys think it's great, say, hey, that's a great idea. If you think it's stupid, it's a stupid idea. Okay. So for long-term listeners of the show, you know about Margarita to Go, right? And Margarita to Go is our USB-powered margarita machine that you can have at the tech table. So one of the thoughts we were going to have was actually have Margarita to Go machines set up at the booth and have some people serving them to our little margarita shot glasses. Little Light Talk shot glasses.
Is that legal? Can you do that?
Yes, if it's not alcoholic. So
non-alcoholic. It's going to be margarita without the rum?
No, it's got to be. Well, it's tequila.
Virgin margarita to go.
That's not a good idea,
It's
David.
not rum, it's tequila. But no, we can work it out with the
tequila,
people.
right.
We need to talk to Ellen about this because there may be problems with the catering there. They may not want us to be serving this sort of thing.
That's a union contract place.
That's right. That's right. So I came up with a new idea. And actually, it was a friend's idea. I'm stealing it from her. We have this full-size Lumen Brothers poster with the three of us on it with the holes cut out where the heads are. And people
That's maybe, I don't know, think about that one.
All right. So I guess
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it's not such a great idea. So
I don't think we're that famous.
People would do it. Absolutely, people would
just
put
for
their
the
heads
hell
on
of
that
it.
thing.
Exactly.
They would.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. They absolutely would.
Listen, if there's a hole somewhere, someone will stick their head in it. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. It doesn't matter what it is. So I think we should think about this. So we're fleshing it out. We've got several months left.
Well, and you could be holding different sponsors. Someone could be holding margarita to go. Somebody could have the cone of silence. Like you could have.
Oh, no.
Yes, we can have the cone of silence. I love it.
That's interesting.
Okay. So anyway, you have any suggestions for swag? Please send it to Stan.
Send it to
Send
us.
it to Stan. And I'll give you his phone number at the end of the episode.
No, I'm going to be on Maui. Don't send it to Stan.
That's right. You know, cell phones work on Maui, Stan.
No, not where I'm going to be, baby.
All right, so
I'm going right into the lava.
okay, so let's move on with the show. I happen to have the first question. This question actually comes from Jim Frick, who's one of our Like Talk Facebook group members. He posted something yesterday, and I said, this is really funny. He writes, I am sitting in the audience trying to enjoy the concert, but power for the lamps on the two upstage left movers is out. So I'll just be staring at that for the rest of the night. Stupid career choice. Hey, does this happen to you? If so, how do you combat it? This happens. It happens all the time to me.
Welcome to the world of lighting, my friend.
You know,
Right.
we can never enjoy a show anymore. We can never enjoy a show. I mean, especially if it's your own show. You know, I mean, you sit out in the audience, you're stressing out, you're totally out of control. Then all of a sudden you notice that one of your movers isn't on. Just sitting there and you're saying, okay, what's going to happen when this sucker gets reset?
I don't know. I think if it's my show and I designed it, I have a lot of ego wrapped up in how it looks. So yeah, it would probably bother me. I don't, and how I would combat it. Let me circle back to that. If it's not my show, if my attention is so easily pulled off the action of the show, then I don't think the show is very good. I mean, I should really be wrapped up in the show, and I might notice that peripherally, but if I'm so disengaged from the performance, whether it's music or theater or whatever it might be, I don't know. I sort of question. I do think you do have to work at forgetting that you're a lighting designer when you go to see the production. And I watched the show, even at school recently, that was so good that I was just, and the student would say, oh, did you catch my mistakes? And I go, yeah, I saw them, but I just dismissed them because the show was so good. And that's really why we're there in the first place. If it's my work, then yeah, it's kind of harder. I guess I probably, dig my fingernails into my wife's arm while it's happening. And I get upset for a minute and then I let it go because, it is, like Ann said, it's lighting and it's not perfect. Things happen. It's technology. And we work hard to make it right, but just stuff happens. So what are you going to do? Beat yourself up about it and focus on it and then miss the thing that you came to see? I mean, it's just the lighting after all.
Well, I think I was saying, welcome to the world of lighting, meaning you get infected, right? You get infected with this amazing career that we work on. And, I tell my students come to me all the time, especially the very young new people in Lighting One, and they will say to me like, I went to this concert and all I kept thinking was those are source 4s. And I say, yes, I have done my job because now they are being professionals and they are working as they're enjoying. And yes, that's kind of a two-edged sword or double-edged sword for us, but I think you shouldn't try to combat it. I think you should embrace it. Like maybe you don't focus on the two that are off, but the fact that you noticed it means that you're becoming more and more of an expert and a professional, So I think it's good to have your brain working when you're at a show. I mean, it's kind of what we do. But at the same time, it's wonderful when you have a show that's so good that you can't even think about anything else. And there's been maybe a couple of those in my life, but I'm always thinking as I'm watching a show, and I'm one of those annoying people that's always turning around and looking at the balcony rail and stuff like that.
I do that.
I don't disagree with Anne. I think it is something we give up. We give up the total immersion. I can remember being at a Disney parade once in Orlando, and I was watching the audience. I was watching the technology and how they did it, but at the same time, I watched the people, and they were in a trance. I mean, you literally are in a different state of mind when you allow yourself to engage in the show. I think it's true what Anne says, that you do have a degree of separation when you're a designer and you're learning that. But at the same time, I think we lose something too. So
Sure.
it's a double edge.
And I love when a show is so complicated that you can't figure out how it's done. I love that. Like the first time I saw Ka and the stage went, up, and I thought, oh my gosh, how do they do that? So that's really exciting too when it goes beyond your professional knowledge, and so it makes you hungry to learn more. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned Ka. I had the same experience when I saw O. I mean, I was so stuck on that first effect, I missed half the show. I couldn't believe it. But it's so weird. I mean, this is why I usually don't go to opening nights. Because
Yes.
I can't relax. I need
too.
like 12 Xanaxes to survive.
Seriously.
And I so instead I go to the bar and drink 12 martinis. No, but I just find that it's not just me, because a lot of the directors I work with, we can't go to opening. We basically like at La Scala. I mean, which is it's a big deal for me.
Yeah, of course.
We could not. Yeah, the director, the designer, and me. We went to the bar across the street, and I know it's just sad, but it's. I'm working.
And then just showed up for the party, right?
Yeah. We made the curtain call. We did the curtain call.
Oh,
and,
the penguin bow.
The penguin bow, which happens in opera. And then we just went to the party, and then we said, "Oh, the show was great. Yeah, it was terrific." But I remember my first show where the show that made me decide never ever to go to opening night again, and I won't mention it because it has to do with a product that one of our friends designed. But the light board, I'm sitting in the audience next to the director, and 6 times the board crashed. I mean, so bad that work lights came on, orchestra stopped. And what can you do? You can't do anything, and it's nobody's fault. It was just a bad, power. Who knows what the hell it was? But boy, I would. That's it. I can't do this anymore. Can't do it anymore. So, and then about 2 years later, I got my nerve back up, and I wasn't in the audience. I was watching from the booth. And the very first cue was a reveal behind a scrim, and it was supposed to happen, and nothing, no light.
Oh.
Found out later that the electricians never powered up the light.
Oh no!
So the show
How
stopped.
horrible.
The show stopped.
Well, we are really vulnerable to the technology.
Yeah.
That's true.
We are slaves of the technology. I mean, it's terrible. It's great and it's horrible. So what are you going to do? All right, let's go on to our next question, Anne.
Oh, that's me. Okay. Maverick at ESPN wants to know, am I the only person who thinks about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Don't act like you don't too.
What's this got to do with lighting?
I'm not sure this is a question.
It has everything to do with lighting. Are you kidding me?
Okay, explain that to me.
Maverick and I must be, soulmates, because I have worked at ESPN and I love peanut butter and jelly. So yes, you're not alone.
Listen, there's nothing better than peanut butter and jelly.
True.
No, they're great. I love it too. But
When you're at the desk and you are like under stress, we've talked about this sort of thing before. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich will probably pull you through it all.
Yeah, so true. And I just finished teaching at Stagecraft Institute of Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. And one of the things they do is every day they bring us a little PB&J for lunch on like classic white bread. It's so fantastic. It just brings me back to my childhood.
I do have an important question, though. What type of jelly?
Raspberry, anything red. Raspberry, cherry, that kind of thing. What about you?
Are we talking jelly or jam?
preserves.
Is that too classy for the peanut butter? Because and are we talking chunky?
No, you have to get
smooth?
the what is that great organic peanut butter we get? I can't.
Well, from Trader Joe's, right?
Yeah, that's the one. It's like $15 a jar.
Yeah, yeah. But it's oily on top because they use the natural peanut
Yeah.
butter.
Yeah, you got to mix it.
You got to mix it up.
Hey, you know what? How about, okay, I'm going to take a twist on this. How about almond butter? Are you guys with almond butter or no?
I'm a classic peanut girl.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I'm a peanut girl too. on Thursday evenings. On Thursday evenings, I'm a
We've heard
classic
that about
peanut
you,
girl.
David.
Yes.
So next week when I get to work with you all, do I get to have a question about lighting? Am I graduating now?
You have one more question about lighting. I think you have a question about lighting later on.
Oh, do I? Okay.
Yeah, after our sponsor, you have a question about lighting.
It's Justin's peanut butter,
Just
I
checking
think.
if I'm
So,
earning my
yes.
stripes here.
You're doing fantastic.
So, Ann, is the answer to his question, no, he's not the only person?
He is not alone. Thank you, Maverick.
Exactly. I love peanut butter.
You know, my wife likes to put it on a plate with honey.
Yes.
Without the bread.
I
just
do that
honey.
too.
Yeah, do you? Okay, good. Local honey and peanut butter.
And we
Yes.
cannot end a discussion of peanut butter and jelly without our moment to the king, Elvis Presley.
Peanut butter and banana, right?
That's right. So, all right.
Then there's peanut butter and chocolate. There's Reese's. You know.
All right, Stan, you've got the next
I got
question.
the next question, and it's about lighting. But I'm
Thank
going to let
God.
Ann. I'm going to let Ann take the lead. Okay, so I'll ask the question. Charles in France writes, "I have an opportunity to buy a number of ACL. I know what that means. PARs. I think I know what that means.
I know what
but
it
I'm
means.
confused about the power requirements."
In France, I'm not sure. I know ACL is aircraft landing light, right? And
Right.
they are beautiful PARs because they're so super
Yes.
narrow and punchy and gorgeous. And when I used to work for Brian McDevitt, he would put like a bank of them behind every window because it's all parallel
Yeah.
beams, and it was just
Yeah.
magic,
they're
like delicious lighting.
They are magic. It's true.
And I know in America you have to have four wired in series per circuit or something like that, but that is
Right.
where my knowledge ends with that.
Well, I can pick up on that. That's
Please.
correct. And we used to call them ACLLs for aircraft landing lights, which were low voltage parallel beam PARs. And in the day, at least going back to your point, Ann, about the voltage, I think they were 24 or 18, 20. Yeah, what do I think, David? Isn't it 24 volts each? So if you wired, but they were DC because power on airplanes is direct current, not alternating current. So you had to utilize the whole 120 volts of line voltage across the lamps because to distribute that 120 volts, or maybe they were 32 volts. I can't remember the exact number, but if you took 120 or so and divided it by 4 or whatever that is, let's just see if I'm right. To get the voltage of the lamp. So you had 120 volts, then you divide that by 4. Yeah, 24 volts each. But if you put more than 24 volts into one lamp, that filament is pretty thin, which is how they get that really great, point source of light. Then you'd explode that filament. So you had to eat up the 24 volts of AC with basically the DC-based lamp. So I remember they used to make what's called the low voltage forfer when I was at production arts. It would basically be a cable, pin connector, 1 male, 4 females, and then you would plug your 4 ACLs into those 4 things and you're distributing the power. So that's my understanding of how they work. But you could, if you were really clever and you only wanted to use 1 or 2, you could either ghost load it by putting the ones you're not using and shining them somewhere else, or you could take a root mean square meter, put it on your dimmer, roll it down until you were at, let's say, 64 volts, and then you would patch at level. So you'd patch that dimmer at whatever the percentage was when you were reading 64 volts, and full would actually be 64 volts. So you could sort of make it happen that way as well. Maybe I'm confusing Charles more than I'm helping him, but is that clear to you guys what I said?
Yeah, and I'm looking online. There's a bunch for 28 volts. So
28.
yeah, pretty close. You were
28
close.
volts.
They really are special.
I'm not seeing them in enough inventories lately. I want to use them.
I don't see them being used very often anymore.
No, because we have all these other lights that do the same thing.
Right. This is a big topic. I'm having a meeting when I get back from Maui on this facility that we're going to renovate, and are dimmers going in there? I asked that question at the masterclass room. At the end of the masterclass, we had a room with like 70 people, and I asked, I'm curious if Ann has a perspective on this, and I asked, how many of you are seeing your fixture counts going down in your plots because of the LEDs. And I was expecting that people would have said yes, but the answer was not so much. Things haven't changed that much. It hasn't really shifted the fixture counts. What are you guys seeing?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like in some ways it is. Like, for example, instead of a 2-color backlight, I'll have just an LED, or a 2-color high side, I'll just have one, that kind of thing. So I'm seeing
that's
it
what I'm
in
thinking.
some ways.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah, but I find that theaters they can't afford enough LEDs. So it's not like you can suddenly, and they're not always bright enough, depending on the fixture. Right. So you can't always make your adjustments that you want.
Yeah, that's what I'm searching for. Have we reached the inflection point? And I guess not yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
until they make up these fixtures powerful enough, and not everyone can afford an $8,000 solar spot.
Right.
So
they have to run a podcast and collect a lot of money.
Yeah, like we do. And now that you mention it, we forgot to talk about the ETC International Workshop that Stan and Steve and I did last week. And we just want to promo it because it's on Light Talk. It's episode 66, I think it is, right?
That would be the audio only version, right. And I think we also linked it to the video of us interviewing Fred Foster that they have up on their site. So that's one way to check that piece of it out. And I think we also, I don't know if we linked it to our masterclass on the Facebook page or not. I can't recall, but both of those are available.
Yes, if you go to the Light Talk Facebook page, you will see links to both of these. I highly suggest you do not look at the audio because it's really hard to look at in the sense of people. You want to imagine.
How do you look at audio?
Did I say audio? You want to look at the video because Steve and Stan and I are not the prettiest people in the world. Let's be honest.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, now we have Anne here. We should just plug Anne's photo everywhere.
Oh, right? Also not the prettiest person in the world.
No, you are. You're fantastic.
So I think it's a huge honor that ETC brought you all. And, I keep teasing you're celebrities, but I'm actually serious about that. So you made a great dent in this world that we live in. And it's a great honor that ETC brought you in.
Well, thank you, Anne.
It was really, I'll have a couple of highlights from the interview I might mention. It was really interesting to hear Fred talk about the one question that I thought was really not necessarily directly lighting related, but talking about why he made the company an employee-owned company. Yeah, how he said he should have done it sooner, and then he made a joke about us because we were talking about me buying the solar spots and David and whatnot, and he goes, "Oh, did you guys make enough money from podcasts to buy solar spots?" And we were like, "We don't have any sponsors and we don't make any money from this," But he was ribbing us about that. But it was really a neat interview. I think he was very forthcoming and very honest about the culture that he tried to build in the company. And I wish more American companies would take a lesson from what they've done there.
Well, the proof of the pudding is that those employees are happy. And, when I was at LDI last year, I spent a lot of time with high-end people because, my team was in the finals of the Hog Factor. And everyone was happy. And they were happy because they were bought by a company who knows how to treat employees. My union, here's my socialism coming out now, is because I'm such a union guy, I mean, if we had a lot of companies like that, we wouldn't have to have unions. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I toured the factory there when USITT was in Wisconsin, and it was such a great tour. They were on the floor. It was so clean and well lit and nice, and there were lots of women and people of color, and they were doing all these amazing things, and they seemed pretty happy, and I was quite impressed with that. And then I believe it was, they said once a week or once a month or something, they have this luncheon where employees can bring new ideas to the whole company, no matter who you are. I thought that was the most amazing thing.
Do you know what kind of door Fred has on his office?
No. An open one?
It's a garage door.
A garage door?
It's a garage door,
fantastic.
and he'll never forget where he came from. To your point, David, about the people at high end, one of the hardest questions I think we asked him was to reflect on one of the things that he did that didn't work out well. That of course he talked about the Source 4 and how that worked out well, and he said the purchase of Iridion, which was the Verily architectural line, was a mistake that he made, but he had his ego attached to it. But he said that didn't work out. But what we gained from that was eventually, we talked about the high-end acquisition, rather. He said what we gained more than the solar spots and more than the whole lot, we gained 65 really great people.
Yeah.
And he's never lost focus on that. It's like when we talk about it's your relationships and building them and maintaining them. It's all, at the end of the day, everything distills down to the people. And it's nice to have a company in our field that really gets that and promotes that. And talked about really beautiful. The other really great highlight I want to mention, we talked about the educational stuff that they're committed to. He exposed how that came about. And he said they were sitting around in a room. I don't remember the gentleman whose name he mentioned. And he said, who was your mentor? Who was your mentor? And they realized that their mentors were always 20 years older than they were. And he made the point that if your mentor is only 10 years older than you, you're sort of competitors for the same work. But when you're 20 years older, you want that young person to actually be better than you are. And that's why they sort of started that sponsorship program. And I thought that was really insightful, that you have a better mentoring relationship when your mentor was at least 20 years older than you. And I never thought about that way. And I thought that was a astute point.
Yeah, it is. He actually said both about Iridion and high end. Because, from the Iridion deal, they got like Ann Valentino and Tom Luttrell and, a lot of people were originally from Verily. So, yeah, and You're right. It's about the people. That's why we do theater, right? I mean, we're all team, and that's the feeling you want. They're all theater people. They're not corporate people. And believe me, when you work for some companies, you do get the corporate stuff thrown in your face and you hate it. But we're not mentioning names, right, Ann?
Although I might argue with the age thing a little bit, though, because I think about, some of my students. I have a student who's 2 years younger than me, and I want him to succeed like crazy. So to me, it doesn't matter if they're a freshman in college or they're my age, or I've had students who are 20 years older than me. I'm always just, dying for them to make their dreams come true. And I think it's more of a state of mind than an age.
Well, you're a unique one, I think, because you're truly dedicated to teaching.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's sort of me too. At a certain point, like when I retire, I'm going to be an artist again. I feel like I put my own self-expression on the back burner, while I'm teaching. It really does become all about them.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Best job in the world.
You are listening to Light Talk with Ann, Stan, and David, the Lumen brothers and sisters. Light Talk this week is sponsored by
Relaxate by Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. Is stress in a theater making it impossible for you to be the creative lighting designer that your mother always said you were? Are unreasonably demanding directors stressing you out? Do you find your oasis of creativity turning into a torture chamber? Well, it may be time to ask your doctor about once-a-day Relaxate. One tablet of Relaxate will make your stress disappear and send you into an altered state of ultimate tranquility. Like a trip back to a Joshua Light show, your color and movement perception will be greatly enhanced. Synesthesia will be increased, taking you into a multisensory journey through the portals of pleasure and light. Your mean director will turn into a bunny rabbit. Your harsh stage manager will magically transform into a butterfly. And that annoying actor will vaporize into a cloud of blue angel dust. Time will slow down, creating a relaxed, no-stress environment of creative nirvana. Don't take Relaxate if you or your family has a history of blood sugar disease, or if you have multiple endocranial dysplasia syndrome type 2. Stop using Relaxate and call your doctor right away if you have a serious allergic reaction that may include runny bowels or bleeding toe syndrome. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis, expanding brain, growing new appendages, loss of hair, lazy eye, and uncontrolled urine flow. Taking Relaxate with any foods that contain sugars increase your risk of uncontrolled sexual desire syndrome. If you experience an erection of longer than 2 hours, immediately notify a doctor or nurse, your choice. Common side effects may include nausea, bloody diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, headaches, and increased appetite. These could lead to a fatal increase in stress. Avoid extended stays in dark buildings where actors and technicians may frequent. Ask your doctor about once-a-day Relaxate. And remember, don't eat the brown acid.
Seems like something you could take before opening nights, David.
I think David was inspired by the fine print in his Viagra.
Perhaps.
Well, no, actually, that disclaimer was actually taken off an actual commercial.
I believe it. I totally believe it. And now, back to Light Talk.
Joan in Utah writes, when you design a tour, what are some of your considerations?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, great question, Joan. All right, so Joan, when you design a tour, here's the things that I know. I've done Broadway tours. I haven't done rock and roll or anything like that. But typically what you want to consider is that tours in America go through these various houses, and they're known as sort of A houses or B houses, that kind of thing. And so if it's a First National Broadway tour, it will typically go to all the A houses in America. And all that refers to is a certain size and, I don't know, caliber of the theater too, I'm sure, but it gives you a basic size. So there's a basic box you're trying to fit this tour in everywhere you go. And so the overstage electrics and the set are typically designed to fit in the smallest of the A houses. So even though they're all about the same size, there's maybe one that's a little different. And once, you get that size, so it's going to fit in the smallest one, then when you get to larger ones, you can always tab in, they call it, which means bring in legs and borders and things. So you're kind of filling that offstage space and not affecting sight lines and things like that. But you start there. As far as lighting specifically, overstage typically always stays the same. So if you're doing a First National tour, and this is different if you're doing a smaller tour, but a First National Broadway will bring all the lights with it. It'll bring all the truss with it, like all that stuff, and that's all set up and it's all the same. The challenge is really the front of house, because front of house is different in every space typically. Some have box booms, some have balcony rails, some don't even have balconies, they have booths, all those sort of things. And so you have to account for that. So often you'll do a couple of ideas for your front of house setup, like, okay, if it doesn't have box booms, we do this. If it doesn't have a balcony rail, we do this. If it doesn't have front of house truss, we do that. So you have sort of these ideas and you hand those off to your head electrician who takes the tour everywhere. And the head electrician will make those choices from there on out if there's a unique space. So it's really kind of a partnership in that way. And kind of a fun, I've had a project like this at school where it's kind of a fun challenge to try to fit your show into a new box, so to speak.
Wow.
That's pretty good answer, Ann.
I'm impressed. Oh my God. Can I be your student? That was really amazing.
I could just chime in a couple of things. The ACE, when we consult on buildings, we call the Broadway tours, we call them the A scale houses, and usually the proscenium is going to be, for the tours like 50 feet or plus, right? And maybe 25 to 30 high, and then there's like B scale, which are sort of like second companies, right? And I agree with Ann about the front of house. Some spaces have interconnect panels. In the old days, you could actually control the front of house if there's a house rep hang, which oftentimes there is. Yeah, that's a really great answer. I think you hit all the high points there. Yeah,
and did you talk about trucks?
No.
Okay, because that was the one thing I wanted to add to this is that a certain amount of you can only spec a certain amount of equipment that will actually fit in a certain number of trucks. And sometimes when you're designing for tours, even though all the lighting equipment in that Broadway house will fill 3 trucks, you got to cut it down to 1 or 1.5 or whatever. So all this stuff is very important, obviously, with trusses and things like that. But, it's so funny is how they used to do it and how they do it now. I mean, again, I keep on referring to that great Red Hot Chili Peppers documentary they do on that tour from a couple of years ago when they're talking about the LED. It's actually, they use an OLED screen, okay, a big, huge OLED screen. And it's so light that it's connected by magnets. The tiles are connected by magnets. And, they talk about how much time that saves in load ins and load outs. Sure. So it's the same thing with theater. Time is everything. And, I just went to stop by Red Rocks to show my friend what Red Rocks looked like. They were loading at a show there and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. In the old days, they may have gotten there at 8 a.m. to start the load in.
On that subject, one of the things that we struggle with as consultants is how many loading dock bays we can get in the building.
Absolutely.
How we work to minimize the number of turns from the truck. The ideal is a straight shot out of the truck right onto the stage. It's like there's some big houses in Tampa. There'll be like 8, 9 loading bays, which is great. And then access to those bays. Like how does the truck driver get that thing in there, and how fast can they get them in there, and how long where do they go when they pull away so the next truck can come? The last one we did, I think we could only get a two bay dock in that space. It's sort of a B scale house. Yeah, so I think and people don't like to pay for that. But it's so okay. Not? But it's because because you would rather spend it well, because people want to spend money on the lobby. Okay, we fight that all the time. True. Nobody sees the stage machinery backstage. It's hard to make those arguments sometimes when you're dealing with a fixed number, unless you have a wealthy client or a municipality. I mean, Theater Projects has done these great spaces all over the world. It's really amazing to make these buildings work, and the great ones are really great, and but quite expensive. You could talking about $100 million to make a nice big, A scale house in a large city.
Well, Howard Burriss-Meyer told me the trick to how to get around that, and this is what you should do, Stan. The last thing that you and the architects should ever decide on are the seats. Because when they start cutting money, they're not going to cut the seats.
That's true.
Nice.
And he told me it worked for him for like 30 years. He used to say, wait, I'm going to hold this for a little bit. I'll hold it. And then all of a sudden, the fly loft has been built, so they're not going to cut the fly loft. The rigging has been built, so they're not going to cut the rigging. And I tell you one thing, they're not going to cut the seats.
Oh, you mean picking the seats?
Yes, specifying the
gotcha.
seats.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm talking about, not the size of the auditorium. So anyway,
just the quality of the seats.
Well, exactly. So we can put some plastic chairs out there if you want.
I wanted to tag on to David's thought about trucks, and I was thinking about Joan in Utah, and I was wondering, I don't know what her background is, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not as much into the concert world as David is. But in terms of Broadway, another thing you should know when thinking about trucks is different types of tours have different truck allowances, I guess I should say. So first National Broadway tours are usually the most expensive and usually have the most trucks. And then second National Broadway tours, which are more common now, less first nationals are going out anymore. But second nationals are smaller, so they have less trucks. And then eventually you go down to what's called a bus and truck, right, which is technically like actually a bus and a truck, for the people and the stuff. So keep that in mind. Your producers or whoever is going to help you decide on some of those things as well.
I thought about one other thing. Like when I do a touring project with my students as well, is spares. Because you're talking about considerations. It's like you may be in a place where something doesn't work, or you run out of something and you just can't go to the hardware store to get it. Oh, yeah. I didn't do this on a tour, but I worked on Block Island in Rhode Island in the summers when I was a kid, or in my 20s, and you couldn't if you didn't have the gaffer's tape, you couldn't go down to the hardware store and get the gaffer's tape. It came across on a ferry, right? So there's like considering, like when you're on the road, like what do you need to be carrying with you to be prepared?
Yeah,
do you have a second light board? Maybe you do. Do you have a second power supply for that light board?
Always.
What can you afford so that when because something will fail.
That's right.
For sure. Things will fail. Yeah. And how can you prepare for those contingencies?
Yep. Someone will forget the beer. So anyway, hey, we're at the end of the show. And Anne, thank you so much for sitting in today.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Thanks for having me.
And also, Anne's going to be on the next few shows because, as we know, Stan is going for his second honeymoon. And
aloha.
I'm taking over, Stan.
Eat a pig, Stan. It's good for you.
Get a little ukulele going for me while I'm gone. I'm going to go see Don Ho and have some lao lao.
Well, Don Ho, is he still alive? Oh, my God.
If you come back in a grass skirt, I'm going to worry.
He'll come back in a grass skirt. Tiny Bubba.
Yeah, make sure you get at least one lay, okay? So, anyway.
Believe me, there'll be. It smell. You know what? When you get off the plane,
give you a lay.
Just smell.
I know, it's beautiful.
Oh, you smell the hibiscus.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like walking into a bottle of perfume. I can't wait.
Take the road to Hannah. Take the road to Hannah. That's all I have to say. Anyway, we'll see. Well, that Hammond organ solo tells us that once again you have not wasted, but you've spent 39 minutes and 19 seconds.
Precious minutes.
Listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers and Sister Thank you, Ann. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and any of your favorite podcast providers. And don't forget to subscribe to Light Talk on iTunes. That way you will miss 1 second of Lumen insanity.
And no guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
In other words, stop, think, and listen to Ann.
Don't only listen to Ann, because she knows
No.
what she's talking about.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen people, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and San Clemente.
And be sure to tune in next week when we discuss DMX Terminators. Boy, that's interesting. What's a meat rack? Do I need a light meter for stage work? And what is the best Chinese mover?
All that and the new sponsor, Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Light Talk.